Everyone, and welcome back to another video. It's a Saturday today, and I'm planning a very chill Saturday, like the past 7 days really. It's not like I've done much anyway. Got some cooking booking for today, so I want to show you how my dad make his bread, because I had a few people asking about it here on YouTube and on Instagram. And I also want to make a batch of my sweet potato granola, which is a recipe from my ebook, because it's just such a delicious breakfast, and I also like to have it as a snack with some coconut yogurt. And that's it really. I haven't really thought about what I'm gonna have for lunch and dinner, but I guess we shall see. I'm gonna finish my matcha latte as usual, do my usual morning routine, exercise, shower, skincare, and then I'll see you at breakfast where we're making the granola. So for our sweet potato granola, we obviously need some oats. I've got some chopped almonds, but you can use any kind of nuts that you like. I got some pumpkin seed, but again, you can use any seeds that you like sunflower seeds, a great option. I've got some cinnamon, and we're also gonna use obviously a sweet potato, which I baked. You can also steam it, whatever you prefer. I'm just gonna peel it off. Oops. We're gonna kind of mash it up, and the potato is what's gonna create these kind of sweet and crunchy clusters. I'm also gonna use some maple syrup for a bit of sweetness. The recipe usually calls for coconut oil, but I don't have any, so we're gonna skip it. I'm sure it's gonna be fine.
There was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let go of disguise.
The granola, it got slightly burnt on the corner. My dad's oven is not the best, but yeah, it smells delicious. I'm gonna have it with some yogurt and some fruit. I'm just having it with some plain soy yogurt, and I've chopped up one apricot, and I've got plenty of granola for the next few days. I will leave the recipes in the description box as always. For lunch, as usual, I made myself a big salad. We have so much fresh produce at the moment, and it's also very hot here in Italy, so a salad for lunch is always a good option. I always like to add some fermented vegetable. This time was sauerkraut, but we also been making fermented cucumbers as well. I also made a very simple kind of veggie and tofu scramble. I've used lots of courgette, some mushrooms, some onion, and then I just added some crumbled tofu. I will leave the exact recipe in the description box if you want to check it out. But as I said, it's just very simple. Lots of veggies, some tofu, and then I also added some nutritional yeast for some flavor, and then I cooked everything together. This is the tofu scramble. Is probably the least appealing tofu scramble you ever seen. I just wanted to use up all the courgette that we had. I just put lots of nutritional yeast for flavor and some turmeric for color. So yeah, I'm gonna eat this, and then we're gonna crack on to make some bread this afternoon. Before we crack on with the bread, I'm just having an iced latte with chicory coffee. It's not real coffee. And I'm also having one of these protein bowls, which I made actually in the last video. So I will leave it below if you want to check out the recipe. They're just so delicious. Okay, we're about to start making the bread, and what we do, we're gonna grind the grains beforehand. My dad has like a mini mill, which you can make your own flour with. So in here we have a blend of wheat, spelt and rye, and then we're also gonna add red lentils, amaranth, some rosemary for flavor, and that's it, I think. So we're gonna grind this up into a flour, and then I'll show you the next step.
As I mentioned, we just added everything to my dad's mini meal. We also end up using some mung beans, and then we just let the meal do its job, and in the end you get very fine flour, perfect to make bread. So this is the starter. As you can see, is alive. It's got bubbles on top. So I will leave the link in the description box for a video on how to make your own sourdough starter, because it's basically just adding flour, sugar and water, and kind of like keep feeding it every day until you have some kind of like fermented starter, and that is gonna be your yeast. So that's what is gonna make the bread rise. So that's our mother, it's also called mother or starter. And now we're gonna start kneading the bread. So my dad just started adding the flour gradually, and actually doesn't need anything. He just used a big wooden spoon to mix the bread mixture. It kind of like keep it quite wet, and then you just keep adding flour as you go along. This is a very rough recipe. There's so many ways to make sourdough. It just then move it into a baking tray covered with some parchment paper, and then it kind of like just spray it around and flatten the top, and then we're gonna let it rise. Bread is ready to be let to rise, so I just sprinkle on top some pumpkin seed and flaxseed, but this is totally optional, so we're gonna just let it sit and rise for about 2 hours. And here is the bread. It actually rise a little bit more. It actually is risen as a little bit more than we thought. Looking quite good, I would say. Yeah, pretty happy with it. This grape is really good. For dinner, I decided to make some stuffed tomatoes because we have so many at the moment. So I just cut off the top of the tomato, and then I emptied it using either a knife or a teaspoon. We're going to use the pulp later, but you want to have some kind of like tomato cap dash container. I prep all the tomato and then I put them onto a baking tray so they're good to go when the filling is ready. For the filling, I just chopped 1 white onion. I then add it to a pan with a drizzle of oil, and I let it caramelize for about 8 to 10 minutes before adding in 1 finely chopped courgette. And then again, I cook for another about 5 minutes before adding some sun-dried tomatoes, lots of fresh basil, some fresh oregano, and some fresh thyme. I then added the drained tomato pulp, which I roughly chopped, and then cook for another 10 minutes before adding in the cooked brown rice and some harissa paste for a nice spicy kick. And finally, I've just added in the nutritional yeast for a nice cheesy flavor. Stir everything together, and then one by one I filled the tomato. I pop the lid back on, and then I bake them in the oven for about 30 to 35 minutes until they're nice and juicy. These are so delicious, and it's such a fun way to use up lots of tomatoes. I will make sure to leave the full recipe in the description box as always. They are in all their glory. I just took a picture for the thumbnail and I'm outside on the floor and I uncovered some of them just to show the filling. They smell so good, you guys. I literally cannot wait to dig in. They're super simple, perfect if you have lots of tomatoes in season right now that you don't know what to do with. Time to try them. It's been so hot today, to be honest. The last thing I wanted to do was turn the oven on, but I hope these are gonna be worth it. Ooh, the harissa is spicy. Even just the filling by itself, I think it's gonna be really nice. Like kind of like a summery risotto kind of thing. It's really delicious.